Okay, so welcome to our first book chat with Ita and Amanda. We're just going to talk about books, basically. Let's introduce ourselves first. So my name is Ita, this is
Amanda,
and we're both librarians at Tamworth City Library and part of Central Northern Regional Libraries. I know everybody, but of course this will be recorded, so if you can just maybe quickly introduce yourself. Annette, would you like to take it away?
Yep, get the hand up. Yes, I'm Annette and I'm in a book club, so with the library, and it's wonderful. And it's yeah, so I thought I'd just try this out and see how this goes. The Zoom is great. I love the Zoom.
Excellent. Yes, it's so easy. Susan, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah. Hi, I'm not in a book club, but I borrow from the library regularly, and which is great. I mean, the library is fantastic. It gets all the recent releases, and yeah, jumping quick, and you get all the good stuff. So I'm a very happy library user.
Yes. And then we have Peter, who is Susan's husband. Do you want to enjoy yourself? Of course, you're enjoying it. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Yes, I'm Peter, and I hate book clubs.
And Peter is a poet, so maybe he likes poetry clubs.
And I'm here because my wife made me.
Well, thanks for joining us.
Yes. But he told me about it. He was the one that told me about it. So there you go.
No, I don't like book clubs. I avoided them as much as possible, but I just was interested to see how this would work.
Yeah, so this is not a book club. This is just anyone who wants to talk about books, any books, and we can give each other recommendations. We're going to put it up on our social media so people that can't make it today can watch it later. We are going to follow up with a blog about the book chat. So we'll put all the books that we discuss up there. That's hopefully finished next week. So yeah, so this is our first one. So we're just trying out what works. So let's start with why do we read? So Amanda, what do you read?
So I mainly read for escapism and educational purposes, and I like to read for inspiration as well. So that's the three main reasons why I read.
Cool. Me?
Yes. What do you read?
I read for work, of course. So for work, I read for the author talks, for the book clubs, which I love because you get to discuss the ins and outs of a book, and often you get more out of it because you get other people's views. And I read for professional development, but for at home, I read to relax, to experience other cultures, to experience other lives, other times. You get out of your head by getting into a book, I think. And also for inspiration. Yeah. So who will we call on? Do you want to put your hand up if you want to? No hands? Yes, Annette. What do you read?
Well, I really enjoy the book club. It took me 2 years when I came to Tamworth to get into a book club. So I'm appreciating every single time I can get a book. It's not the same as reading it on your own.
No.
So
definitely.
it's nice if someone else is reading it, and you know, it keeps you up to date with a lot of things that are happening in the world, really, because we do read a lot of up-to-date books. So it's and some older ones, and I think the library's great. Love the library, but with the COVID, it's been a bit weird. Yeah. So anyway, that's me.
Cool.
Susan?
Okay, so I read, I guess, to relax and to be entertained. There's nothing better than being hooked on a book, like getting a book and you're really hooked on it and you just start changing your life so that you've got more time to read. That's a great thing. That's just the benefit of reading, being able to read, is to have that book overtake your life for a few days. So I like a page turner, but they call them a literary page turner. It's got to be a really well-written page turner. Otherwise, if it's formulaic, and no, it's got to be something really good, but really hooked me. And then it's just my priority then to finish that book. So that's a real blessing, I guess, to have that sort of level of entertainment And we know research shows us that it reduces our blood pressure, and so as far as keeping us stress-free, it's a good thing too.
And Peter, why do you read?
Do you read?
Sorry. What was the second bit?
Second thing was, do you read?
Yeah, about 35 books a year.
Good.
I've read since I was very young, probably for escapism, I guess. My mum was a reader. My dad was too, but I never saw him reading that much. And then when my working life evolved with teaching and being a principal, I just didn't have enough time. And it was more that I was doing a lot of reading, professional reading. And so in my leisure time, I didn't want to read. So in the last probably, I don't know, 15 years, I suppose, I've really upped the ante. And yeah, I enjoy everything from trashy spy novels right through to, you know, highbrow stuff right through to, I read a lot of poetry, obviously. Yeah, I read a broad spectrum of things. I don't think I'm a fussy reader. I know what I don't like, put it that way.
Yeah.
But yeah, I like to go back and read classics too. Things I feel like I missed out on when I was younger and perhaps wasn't discerning enough, or perhaps just didn't understand the value of reading a classic book. Doesn't mean I'll always enjoy it, but I'd like to do that.
Yeah, I like to go back to books I've read before, because you always get something else out of it when you're in a different stage of life or in a different mood. Yeah. So sometimes I go back to those books.
Oh, really? Yeah. See, I'm opposite. I never go back and read a book the second time because there's so many other books I want to read that.
Yes. So little time.
So little time to go back and read a book, even though you did enjoy that.
Yeah.
I think I'm in your camp, Amanda.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I go back and reread, but it's for a purpose, and that's at night. I had insomnia for quite a while, and I found it was a real cure for insomnia is to choose a book that I'd read before. So there wasn't that sort of hook or trying to find out what was going on or see what was going to happen in the end. I knew all about it, but it was a book that I liked, like Ruth Park's books, particularly. I reread those. So at night, just to lull me into sleep, rereading is really good.
Yeah, that's right. So let's talk about the last book, or a recent-ish book that you gave 5 stars out of 5 stars. So you really liked. Amanda, do you want to start?
Sure. So I recently read The Night Circus by Erin Morgenstern. It was one that I picked up because I definitely needed an escape during COVID times and didn't really want to be reading my normal thrillers and romance novels where kind of real life tends to touch into those stories. So I picked up this Night Circus and I heard about it from, you know how Big W put out every year better reading top 100 lists? So I was just scrolling through this list and I found The Night Circus, and I also heard Ida talking about it because she had recently listened to the book. And what I liked about it, again, is pure escapism. So it's a fantasy novel. I'm not an overly huge fan of fantasy novels, but I found that during this period that I have picked up quite a few of those because it does allow you to escape and immerse yourself into a different world. And this is about magic. So we have 2 magicians that are, I guess, dueling against each other to see who is the better magician. And it's surrounded by a circus, but the circus is magic as well. And there's a bit of a romance interwoven into that as well. It's beautifully written. It's the first book I've read by Erin, and so I definitely would recommend it to somebody that's looking for something a little bit different and would like a bit of escapism during this time.
Yeah, I listened to that one as well, and it just takes you away from COVID. Like you're just in this magical world of, you know, circus and magicians and jewels, and it's just lovely and beautifully written. Just beautifully written.
I found that even though you know how sometimes thrillers are quite page turner and you just want to know what happens and who done it. This wasn't a page turner in that sense, but I couldn't put it down.
Yeah.
Because I just wanted to be immersed in the magic and the surroundings, and it was a book that I definitely gave 5 stars to.
So who would you recommend that to?
To people that are looking to escape from just the normalcy of everyday life, and also fantasy, to people that are into fantasy genres.
And they have a bit of time because it's quite a big book.
Yes, but it doesn't take you that long
no, it doesn't.
to read.
It's an easy read.
Yes,
yeah, it's an easy read.
Yeah.
So I tell you what I've given. I've read heaps because of COVID as well. So I'm just going to pick one of them because I gave a lot of the new books, especially by Australians, 5 stars. There's a lot of really good ones that came out. I will write about it in the blog so you can see what I've been reading, but I'll choose my favorite. So that is, can you see it? Phosphorescence by Julia Baird. I read the library book as soon as it came out and loved it, and I couldn't put it down. So I reserved the audiobook by the library, which took a while to come in. Then I listened to it. Then I went to Collins and saw it there, and I thought, oh, it's just so beautiful. I just have to buy it. So yes, I'll probably read it 3 times. So Peter will not understand that, but it's really well researched. It's about finding light in the darkness, and we can all find that. We can all use that during COVID, I think. She researched it really well, and there's beautiful quotes in there. I can read it. I think it's just beautiful. So how did I find out about it? We had put it on our Facebook that there was a book launch by Julia Baird. So I thought, oh, that looks really beautiful. I'll try it. And then people at work were talking about it as well. And I haven't stopped talking about it, basically.
Yeah. I haven't heard her stop talking about it. So who would you recommend it to, Ita?
Anyone that needs to find light in the darkness. It's not necessarily an easy book to read. It starts off a bit academic, I find, but I can't explain it. It's just beautiful. Susan, you've read that one as well.
Yeah, I read it. I brought myself a copy because I just fell in love with the cover, and I actually borrowed the artist who did the cover has a book out that I got as a request, and it's a beautiful book. She's lovely artist, so I got sort of enamored with her artwork because the cover is just you have to own that cover.
Yes, I felt that too. I had to own it. We are actually ordering some copies for our book club kids of this book. So next year will be available for the book clubs as well. It's a good book to discuss, I think, to dive in a little bit.
It'd be great for book club. I'd only give it a 3.5, so I'm sorry.
Okay, so what's the book that you gave 5 stars?
I haven't given a book 5 stars since Bridge of Clay. Well, really, 5 stars in Bridge of Clay, it sits there alone. It's just a superb, perfect book. And
okay, so maybe a 4 stars then for you?
for Phosphorescence, 3.5.
Okay, so that's high for you?
Sorry. Look, if I finish a book, it'll probably, all books will start at a 3, and it was better than a good book, but I wouldn't give it anything. A 3.5 is what I'd give it, because there was a couple of things with Phosphorescence that I had trouble with.
Yes.
So, but I really did feel it was a book full of hope, and I would recommend it to everyone, particularly the cover. But I just thought it was a really worthy book, but because there was a couple of things that didn't sit with me.
Yeah.
3.5. But that's pretty good for me. I'm a bit of a hard marker.
Cool. And so, what book would you recommend? Doesn't have to be five stars, but so you play. So
I've just rated the books that I've read recently, and all but I think one I've borrowed from the library. So, which is great because I can just go into my history to remember what I've read. As far as a readability, that doesn't mean they get a 5, but readability, like you just want to change what you're doing so you've got more time to read.
Yeah.
The Survivors by Jane Harper.
Oh, cool. I haven't read that one yet.
Yeah.
About
So I've read
reservations, I think, on that one.
I've read her 4, and the second one I didn't like at all, but the other 3 I really liked, but I think this is probably the best out of her 4. So I'd recommend that. The Dutch House, again, readability, really good. The Glad Shout, which is a newish book by Alison Robinson, and it's topical because it's about climate change, but it's a really good literary page turner. It starts in Melbourne and ends up in Tasmania, so I'd highly recommend that. Yeah, and there's others there, but I've just finished All Our Shimmering Skies by
I love that one. Did you like it? A lot of people don't.
All the reviews
All Our Shimmering Skies.
The reviews I read afterwards, because I refused to read
Yeah.
before, was very, very positive, and I don't quite agree. I enjoyed it, but that sort of fable, unbelievable storytelling isn't something that I really enjoy. So it was just too unbelievable, you know. I know.
See, for me, I liked it.
I know his first one was as well, but because he based a lot of that on his own life, that hooked me and I could cope, even though it took me a while to get into it. But this one, I went, really? Like, you're really stretching the imagination here. But a lot of people did love it because of its fable quality. And I did love, they talk about the environment, the scenery and being up there. Well, we've been up there a lot, so I understand what he's talking about, Aboriginal people and the land they live on and the country. But I really felt you overworked it, like, just every plant and every insect and every. So for me, it's a 3.5. But that's good. 3.5 is good, but I wouldn't be running around recommending it to everyone.
See, that's another one I gave 5.
Okay.
Yeah. So how about Danette? What is a good book you've read lately?
I've never rated a book before.
Okay, so but what would you recommend that you've read lately?
I'd have to have my list because the only books I've read are the book club books because I have trouble with my eyes.
Yes.
And it takes me a whole month to get through one book. But anyway, that's all right. I don't think I'd give I can't remember any books that we've read that I'd give a 5. Can you remember some books we read?
So, American Dirt, I really liked.
Oh, that was a good one.
Mexicans on the,
Yeah, I liked that, but I wouldn't give it a 5. Would you?
Probably a 4.
Yeah.
I gave that one a 5.
Did you?
Yeah, I really enjoyed it.
Okay.
It got a lot of controversy though.
Yes. For people that don't know the book, it's about, it's in this time, maybe 2 years ago, that the Mexicans are trying to get into the US. And Trump is already starting to build the wall. And so they're trying to get in by climbing on top of the trains, and you really get...
Using coyotes to get across.
Yeah, so they talk about the gangs in Mexico and then how to get over to...
That's right.
It's very topical and
so
very well written.
Yeah, it follows a story of a woman and her child whose husband was a journalist, and he outed one of the biggest cartels, so they had to escape across to America. So it's just like their journey from Mexico into America, and how the Mexicans get across, what they resort to, the measures they resort to get across to America to survive, I guess.
Yeah. It's not an easy book to read, but it's a really good one for a book club because there's so much to unpack.
That's right.
Yeah, or that you don't really understand.
Yeah.
It's not a book you read for fun.
Yeah. Got a lot of
I want some fun books.
got a lot of controversial reviews. Oprah Winfrey had it for her book group, and quite a few people thought that the author maybe shouldn't have written it because
She was white?
She
Yeah.
wasn't Mexican, and so she hadn't been through that herself. So how could she possibly write something she hasn't been through? I guess. Yeah.
But she did her research.
Yeah, I thought it was quite.
So yeah. Peter, have you read anything lately that you would recommend to other people?
I've read lots of things lately I'd
Starts?
recommend. This year Sue and I've had an interesting discussion this morning about rating systems. She's an ex-school teacher, so as an ex-school teacher, she rates everything like a bell curve. So there's lots of books in the middle and very few at the ends, either ends. So whereas I don't do it that way. If I like it, it gets a good rating. This year I've read 3 books that I rated 5 so far. One was Paul Kelly's collection of poems called Love is Strong as Death, which I thought was, or a compilation of other people's poems, which I thought was a very broad, but there's really something for everyone in there. If you don't know anything about poetry, you've never read poetry, it's a good compendium to have on your shelf. Bridge of Clay, which just blew me out of the water. Probably the best book I've read for 10 years, I reckon. Just great storytelling, beautifully constructed storytelling, intricate, yet not beyond you. And a very interesting description of a group of Australian men, all basically in the one family, more or less, and the physicality of their relationship, yet understanding that there was an emotional a set of feelings that went with that as well, and that perhaps on the outside you only see the physicality and therefore you tend to rate those blokes lower. So I thought that was very interesting and very, very well written. And recently, we've mentioned it already, Phosphorescence, which was, I found a startling book. I think she could have not had as many quotes. I think the quotes sort of smacked of trying to give credibility to what she was saying, and I don't think she needed to. I think what she was saying was fine. A book of great, far-reaching hope, and that it is possible to find the light at the end of the tunnel, and it doesn't have to be an oncoming train. You know, it's just very beautifully written, very well constructed, and it's one of the rare books I would read again. And in fact, it's a book I would give to people in a number of circumstances. If someone was grieving, for instance, I think it'd be a wonderful read. But they're the 3 this year that I've rated 5.
Cool.
As I said, I'm up to 28 this year, and I'm not going to meet my target, which was 35. Oh no, I regularly do, but I'm not bragging. That's just me. I love to read.
Yes.
And I think of another 6 or 7 I've given a 4 to, and they range across. There was a poetry compilation by Clive James of poetry and his writing about Philip Larkin, which covered a lot of the controversial ground that towards the end of Larkin's career, there was a lot of controversy about him and his personal life. But yeah, they're just those 3 alone. If they were the only 3 books I'd read this year, I would have had a great year.
Yeah, that's good. What I thought in Phosphorescence as well, the poem she puts in there about the grasshopper.
Yeah.
And that's in there. So what are you going to do with your one precious life? I think is just the kicker. There's such.
I was going to throw in too, because it's something I do. I like to put words together. So probably the reason I do it. But I'm a member of Goodreads online, and after every book, I just write a brief overview of what I thought.
Yep.
So it is handy because otherwise I read so many books and I
Same.
sometimes forget what the book was.
Yep.
So if I've got that there, I've only got to look at a few lines I've written and oh yes, and also it helps me remember how much I enjoyed the book. So
Yes.
I'd recommend that. It's free and it
I use
helps
it
you
as well.
find books as
Yeah.
well. Yeah, it's good.
Yeah.
I use it
Yeah.
all the time.
Yeah.
Because otherwise I forget. Because especially when you work as a librarian in the library and people ask you for recommendations, you go, what have I read? Yeah.
Yeah.
The more you talk about books, the more you remember them, I think.
Yes.
Yeah, and you get to know your patrons and you get to know what they're looking for, so it gets easier over time. So today we have to stop before 11 because it's Remembrance Day, but we still have time to talk about books that we're currently reading. Do you want to start?
Sure. So I'm currently reading The Fiery Cross, which is one of the books in Diana Gabaldon's Outlander series. And it's 1,500 pages long, so I'm probably not going to get until Christmas time. But again, it's just something that's is making me escape into another world full of, and it's a historical novel, so it's transporting me back to a time that we don't experience ourselves, and so I'm learning a lot about.
Is it Scotland?
Yes, so at the moment, they're all just in America, and so how they're developing themselves in America, and yeah, so I'm hoping to get it finished before I start watching the season 5 of Outlander.
Cool.
What are you reading?
So I'm always reading a few at the same time. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Peter.
Just a question, Amanda, are the books as violent as the TV series?
No, I don't think so. I think because there's a lot of information packed in the book, like it's almost over descriptive in the book. So you kind of don't really feel that violence as what you feel in the TV show as well. I actually prefer the books because I don't think that the TV show provides enough of that history.
Right.
That the books provide. It's kind of more just about the two characters and how they are together romantically, I think, in some parts of the TV series. Yeah.
I didn't realise the TV series is violent. I didn't see the TV series, but I've read the first book. I think that was before I started uni, so I had time.
Yeah.
I've never picked another one up because
we lasted 20 minutes.
Yeah. True.
Too much for us.
I haven't read that one yet.
Yeah.
So I read at least 2 books at a time. So on the way to work today, I was listening to Sam Bloom. The first book was about Penguin, so Sam Bloom is a lady that is very physical, very healthy, went on holidays with her family and fell off a cliff in Thailand sort of thing and was paralyzed. So the first book is about how she found this magpie that fell out of a tree and that got her got her back to positivity and wanting to live again. I haven't read that one yet, but I'm listening to Sam Bloom where she tells her own story. And the first half is very hard to listen to because it's very depressing and you think, oh my God, what's going to happen? But now I'm in the bit where she finds the magpie. They sort of get better together. She never gets better. She's still paralyzed, but she gets out of her own misery and starts being active again. So she can do kayaking. And in the end, where I'm at now, she can surf again, modified. And it's just so beautiful and like I said, I read to experience different lives. Like I could never experience that and never imagine what they go through. But if you read it or listen to it by someone that has experienced that, you get a sort of taste for it and you get more empathy, I feel. Yeah, so that's one I was listening to. And then for my book club, I have not just a book club with Annette, I have an international book club where I'm just a part of, I'm not running it. and I'm reading All the Light. Oh, can you see that? No. Yeah. Okay, I'll just tell you what I'm reading. It's All the Light We Cannot See by Anthony Joa. It's set in World War II, but it's beautifully written. It's not about the war. It's about a girl in Paris and a boy in Germany, and how their stories like sort of come together.
What's it called again?
It's called All the Light We Cannot See.
Oh, yeah, I know that one.
Yeah. So I read that years ago, and I'm rereading it now for book club, and we only read 50 pages a week and then discuss it. And it's really nice to do it so slow and so deep. You really go in, and every week she asks, what's your favorite line? So you really read it for that purpose, sort of thing. And it's lovely to discuss it with people that are reading it in French or in Spanish or whatever, but we all discuss it in English. So it's just nice to see that all over the world, they have the same sort of experience with this book. Yeah, so that's what I'm reading. So what are you currently reading, Annette? Have you started the book club book yet for us?
I've just finished Behind the Beautiful Forevers.
Okay, that's what we're discussing on Saturday week, so I haven't started it yet. I'll start.
Oh, wow.
What did you think?
Yeah, it's about like the poor people in the slums in India and the beautiful motels on the other side, and how hard it is to live with nothing. Quite depressing. Towards the end, like about a quarter of the book, I had to speed read, so I didn't have to deal with it. It was just getting too much for me. But luckily I can speed read, so that's great. So I can get rid of the pages really quick. But anyway, it's good to experience something different. And
yes.
Yeah, I read it all.
Well done, I haven't started it yet. What are you reading, Susan?
I won't tell you about it then. We'll talk about it at the club.
It's on my bedside table. I can't remember the title. Hang on a sec.
That's me.
Go with Peter.
Yeah, let's go with Peter then.
What are you currently reading, Peter?
Just unmute. Just finished that.
Richard Flanagan, is it the dreams, the living?
The Death of a River Guide.
Oh, yes.
It's a few years old, but I'd never read any of his work. The first I read of his was The Narrow Road to the Deep North, which is sort of like, you're jumping into the highest quality if you'd ever imagined.
I love that one.
Brilliant book, just a brilliant book. This one, I enjoyed it. The writing is as everything he writes, he's just a delightful wordsmith. He just really uses words beautifully and almost poetically in terms of the images he creates. But I read the last 8 or 9 pages before going to bed last night, and actually I was tired. I might reread it. I think I might have missed something because the ending was kind of disappointing.
Okay.
We didn't go any, like, it didn't round anything off. We didn't go anywhere new. I just sort of thought, well, I'm not quite sure what the purpose of the ending of the book was. But the basic premise, I suppose, spoiler alert, the basic premise is a guy who is drowning in the Franklin River, and he's a river guide, and it's based on the concept of your life passing before your eyes as he's drowning. So you find out all about him and his ancestors, etc., etc. The whole story gets told, and it keeps flashing back to the point at which of how he got to the point of drowning. But yeah, I'm not quite sure. I'm not sure I can even rate it just yet. I have to do a bit more thinking. It's sort of, I'm left a little bit perplexed by it. Good storytelling, but yeah, not sure. And just about to start that one, The Wreck.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That one, yeah.
Yeah. So as I say, that was earlier this year. So I read across a broad spectrum of things. I love biographies.
Yeah.
Love
I
biographies.
love biographies.
Yeah.
I love to see this guy I'd never heard of, but I love when it's someone I know, I like to find out how they got to there
Yeah.
and what happened, you know. That was a good story too.
Cool.
True story, yeah.
I see Susan's back. Did you find your book?
I did find my books. So I read 2 books at a time. I read a day book, which can be riveting and a page turner, and that's great. That's what I'm looking for. And then at night I read something that's a little bit of a slow burn so that I can actually go to sleep. So this is, at the moment, I started this yesterday. Such a fun age. Totally hooked right from the beginning.
Really?
So yeah, it's great. Right, it's not, yeah, it's got me in. So it's set in America with a middle-class American family employ a nanny who's African American, and something happens at night and they need an emergency nanny. So they ask her to, would she leave the party and come and take the child out for a bit because they've got something, the police were going to come and they didn't want the child to see the police. And so she likes this child very much. So she's dressed in a party gear, so mini skirt, eyeliner, you know, dressed for a party when you're in your 20s. Well, I can vaguely remember. And she gets the child and takes them to like a supermarket that's open to midnight where the child loves looking at things. So that was easy job. And she was going to get paid double. So she went, yeah, I'm broke. I need the money. So I'll go and do this. And her friend, who was equally dressed for a party, came to help. And that the friend had come before and the child knew the friend. So the child happily went along to the supermarket. Only 3, so language not great. And the friend put on some music and danced with the child in the supermarket and, you know, to entertain them and stuff like that, which looked a bit. Anyhow, a couple of one nice lady was worried that the child was kidnapped by this African American girl and called security, and they were hassling her and asking her so many questions and trying to get the child to say something that would convince them that everything was okay, and the child was talking rubbish. And another guy was videoing, like was trying to be supportive of the African American by videoing and saying, you know, this is wrong what they're doing to you and I'm on your side, sort of thing. And she eventually spoke to the dad and he came and said, look, everything's fine. We're employing her to do this. What she told you is correct. And they all backed down. But just from reading the blurb on the back, it then goes a bit crazy because everyone wants to stick up for her and make a big thing out of it because of racism. And she just wants to go, it's a thing, I'm used to it. Like, just don't make a big thing out of it. So it's quite a hooky book, you know, it's got me in and I can't wait to read it again.
So how did you find that title?
Sorry?
How did you find out about that book?
I'm in a group that has a Monday, basically online Monday book club, and I tend to get all my recommendations from there. So if it comes up a lot, like a lot of people go, yeah, that was a good read, yeah, that was a good read, so it gets a lot of action on one title, I'll go, well, I'll give it a shot. Mostly they write. Occasionally I go, oh, what were they thinking? Nah. But mostly that's a good place for me to get recommendations.
Yeah.
They're very up to date, like a lot of them are librarians or book reviewers and stuff, so it's usually what's just been released, so it's good. I like that.
Yeah.
And heavily Australian, which I like, Australian literature, contemporary Australian literature. And this one's my nighttime read, and it's
cool.
this was actually, Peter read it first. It was one of his birthday presents, and I pinched it off him afterwards.
Of course.
And I'm nearly finished, and it's it's well written. It's not. It doesn't try to do anything. It's just a biography, and it doesn't try to get fancy, and the author doesn't take over and want to impose himself on it. It's just basically what's happened in Jacinda's life up to now. It's recently written, so it's quite up to date. And yeah, and she's, you know, obviously we all love Jacinda, and she is what she is. She's endearing, and it's uplifting to know that politicians can be good people.
I haven't read that one yet.
No.
But you've read Such a Fun Age as well, haven't you?
I haven't read it. No,
Okay.
it's on my bookshelf to read because
Yeah.
it was a Reese Witherspoon's book club.
Oh, was it? Okay.
Yeah, it was. So I've read it as well, but I didn't actually like that one.
Such a fun age. Okay, well, maybe it won't get better than. Did you like the beginning?
I just thought it was a bit too black and white and, you know, not subtle enough for me.
Okay.
Yeah, I didn't finish it. It wasn't, I didn't dislike it that much that I didn't finish it.
Okay.
But yeah, I didn't give it a lot of stars.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. But that's just the beauty of books. I think, yeah. Everybody gets something else out of it.
I'm always surprised when Peter and I both strongly like the same book because we have different tastes. So it must be a good book when, you know, the different audience can like the same book.
Oh, yes. Yeah. I also like to see on Goodreads, often there's people that give 5 stars and people that give 1 star. And I think, oh, that's a great book club book because you get a great discussion. But if everybody just loves it or everybody hates it, then, you know, what's the use?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, I still would like the 5-star books because, we'll probably have to cut it, you know, down in 5 minutes.
Yes. Yeah. So we might just remind you that we do have a blog that's going
in the making
that's going to complement our online book chat. So that's where we'll be posting some of the books that we've talked about, so that if you're wanting to go back and find out what we've read, if you want to check those books out yourself, you can jump on that blog. If you also maybe want to add something to our blog, you can send us an email. So if you've got some recommended reads you'd like to put up on our blog, we'd be happy to take those as well. And we'll be having an online Zoom meeting once a month. So we did choose Wednesday, but I don't know if that's probably the best possible day for us, only because we have a few meetings in the morning.
So maybe Tuesday or Thursday?
So if you're wanting to continue, is a Thursday a good day for you all?
Thursday suits me.
Thursday's fine. What about you, Annette?
I go to competition tennis Thursday. Yeah.
What about Tuesday?
Tuesday I line dance all day and meditation.
They go well together.
I know, one extreme to the other.
Yeah. Okay, well, we'll see. We'll put it up and see who can come. Thank you so much for participating, because otherwise it would have just been me and Amanda talking about books.
Yes. I tend to not get a word in edgewise when Ida's talking.
How do we find the blog?
What's that? Sorry, Susan?
How do we find the blog?
You what, sorry?
How will we find the blog? How do we get?
So once we have finalised it, because we're still writing it, probably we're hoping to have it finished by next week. We'll put it on our social media, the links, and then once it's up, you can probably follow us.
Yes.
So you can get all the new ones.
And we'll probably attach it somehow to our library website as well.
Yep.
And then we will post our next meeting event on Facebook as well.
Yeah, so we're thinking once a month, because that gives us time to actually read some books. Yeah. Otherwise we'll keep doing the same books.
Yes.
Do you want reviews?
Sorry?
You mentioned that people could put in bits and pieces. Do you want reviews on that? You
can just email them to us. We can probably get them from by reviewing this, by the recording. But if you want to just email us the books you talked about, that would probably be quicker. Yeah, if you have time, or just
that's fine.
The library. Yeah.
No, I'd be no bother. I'd just be lifting the review I've written on Goodreads and sending it.
We can do that. Yeah.
If that's going to be useful, I'm not imposing.
For sure.
It's only if you would like it.
Yeah. So the main reason for the blog is for readers advisory and to get people to come back into the library and borrow the books that we have and the books that we discuss, and
And I particularly like the librarian's shelf where they do their recommendations and you put
the staff picks.
That's the staff picks. That's fantastic. She really put one up, and I actually went. After looking through it, I went and brought the book myself because it was so wonderful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I find it hard to put books on my staff picks because all the ones I've read lately are all new ones and they're all heavily reserved, so I can't actually put them up.
Put them up. Yes,
Yeah.
I found that. So what I've been doing is finding books that are actually on my to read list
Ah, right.
and popping them up. So
Oh, okay.
yeah.
Yeah. So,
I have said so in person before, but I'll say again, the support for readers during COVID by having the click and pick up facility was absolutely first rate.
thank you.
Thank you.
I can't give you high enough marks for that because we weren't coming out, so we weren't going to shops buying books. So, for me, I've rediscovered how much I love the library through that. So,
Thank you.
Oh, that's great.
so well done.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank
It's the highlight of my week to drop off and pick up books.
Yeah.
Actually, we weren't even allowed to drop off, to pick up books. I would have gone broke otherwise because I was reading more because I had so much time.
you. Yeah.
And I was
Yeah,
like
for
sometimes
sure.
reading 2 books a week. Well, I can't afford $60 or $70 a week to keep my reading habit. So without the click and collect, I don't know. Maybe I wouldn't be here. Maybe I'd be just crazy on the floor or something.
Well, we went 2 months, and the only time we left house was to go to the library to pick up books
Oh, fantastic.
for nearly 2 months.
Yes. Because we couldn't have the book club in the library with all the, when we were closed and with all the restrictions. So we started our book club on Zoom. So Annette said that was really helpful to get going.
Yeah.
Yeah, well,
That's wonderful.
well done.
Yeah.
Well
Thank
done.
you.
I think,
I agree.
That's,
Yay!
yeah, I think that's one thing that the question is, why do you read? I think reading
Community.
is connection and a community,
Yeah.
I think, as well, because you do like to discuss the books that you read, and I think reading brings people together in ways that other things don't. So
Yeah.
yeah.
The solitary, thing you do, but then it becomes a community because you talk about it with other people.
That's
right. Yeah. So that's why I love the author talks. I can't wait to have them back in the library.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A lot of our author talks have been online recently. You can look at those on our YouTube channel as well. So
Okay, so we better close, otherwise Shirley will get cranky with us. She goes, you have to be out of there by 11 because we have to do the minute silence. So thank you all very much.
Thank you.
We'll put
Thank
the
you.
recording up as soon as we might have to edit it, I'm not sure. And we'll
Thanks.
the new date on Facebook as soon as we have it. Tell your friends if they want to come. But I think just a small group was easier to discuss.
Yeah.
Like if you have 50 people, no one's going to have a chance to talk.
yeah.
Yeah, it didn't matter really.
No.
No.
But if you want to invite friends, invite them.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Right, and we'll see
Thank
you next
you.
time.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.